Hey everybody. So since the Kevin Hayes trade to Philadelphia, trade rumors have really started to swirl around the NHL. A lot of them involving the Toronto Maple Leafs because the Maple Leafs are a team that have to make moves. But there are some other ones out there as well. And I just want to kind of talk about all these different rumors going around and kind of what's going on in the trade market in the NHL, because the trade market is very, very hot right now, and it's going to be leading up to the draft. And I would not be surprised to see some more trades be made between now and draft day. So let's start with the Maple Leafs, because the Maple Leafs are right in the middle of most of these talks because they're a team that has to make moves. There's no question about it. They have less than $9 million in cap space. Mitch Marner is a restricted free agent. Kasperi Kapanen is a restricted free agent. Andreas Johnsson is a restricted free agent. Jake Gardiner is a UFA, and Ron Hainsey is a UFA. And they've got these five, roster players, important roster players, all up, and they don't even have enough money to sign one of them in Mitch Marner. So the Maple Leafs have to make moves, and the Maple Leafs are not going to be able to keep all five of these players. There's absolutely no chance. Mitch Marner is obviously the biggest name, and he's going to get the biggest deal out of any of these guys. With the Leafs having about $8.7 million in cap space, they don't have enough money to sign Marner right now, because Mitch Marner is going to want $10+ million in his next contract. And I would not, he's going to get it from somebody. So for the Leafs to keep Marner, they're going to have to pay him $10+ million per year, or they're going to have to trade him or do something else. But he's going to want big money given the season that he had last year. Do I think that that's too much for Marner? Yeah, probably. But given how well he played last season, he's going to command that. So a lot of the rumors are swirling around Nikita Zaitsev, who has requested a trade from the Maple Leafs, and Patrick Marleau, who has also requested a trade from the Maple Leafs. And that would open up over $10 million in cap space if Toronto is able to move both of those guys. Marleau is making $6.25 million per year, and at 39 years old and at his current production level, he is not worth anywhere near that. So the talk about Marleau is that they're going to ship him back out west, either to a California team or maybe to the Arizona Coyotes or somewhere back out west. And I think he wants to go back out there as well. And it's going to have to be a team that is able to take on that salary and is not up against the cap. So Arizona does seem like a possible spot for Patrick Marleau. And he, the Kings were a team that came up early on. I don't see Patrick Marleau in a Kings uniform, but anything is possible. But he is very, very likely to either get traded, or if they can't trade him, bought out this offseason, because they absolutely cannot afford to have a 39-year-old Patrick Marleau on that roster taking up $6.25 million. And for Nikita Zaitsev, he's making $4.5 million per year. He is kind of one of the odd ones out on that defense core, and I think he's wanted out now for a little while, and I think that he's a guy that Toronto is actively going to be trying to get rid of. I'm not a huge Nikita Zaitsev fan. I think I've made that pretty clear over the last couple years on this channel. I really don't think he's a very good defenseman. But maybe if you get him out of Toronto and put him in a new situation, there could be a possibility there. But Zaitsev is also probably not going to be in a Maple Leafs uniform come next season. But what exactly these deals will be and where these guys are going to go, we really don't know yet. But the moves have to be made. Somebody is leaving. Multiple people are probably leaving just to be able to sign Mitch Marner. Never mind Kapanen and Johnsson or if they want to bring back Gardner or whatever they do. I think Ron Hainsey's probably gone at this point. He's 38, I think, now. So he's probably gone at this point. But they've got multiple guys that they need to re-sign and not nearly enough money to do it. So I would expect Marleau to be moved. I would expect Zaitsev to be moved. They may put some other guys in there, and that's just going to maybe be enough for them to sign Mitch Marner. One deal that has been discussed, or at least the rumors that have come up, were between the Maple Leafs and Hurricanes, involving sending Zaitsev and Kasperi Kapanen to Carolina in exchange for Dougie Hamilton and a prospect. I don't see how that makes Toronto better. That when that came up, my first thought is, why would Toronto want Dougie Hamilton, who got absolutely manhandled in the playoffs in two different series this year? I mean, Ovechkin beat the living hell out of him in the first round, and then in the second round, I mean, Hamilton was just knocked around by Boston. He was pushed into taking stupid penalties, and it really, or not in the second round, in the third round, Hamilton had a rough postseason when he was played physically, and that is already a problem for Toronto, is their lack of physicality. So I don't understand how Dougie Hamilton how that move, sending Kapanen and Zaitsev to Carolina for Dougie Hamilton and a prospect, I don't see how that would make the Maple Leafs all that much better, other than it would free up some space because you wouldn't be re-signing Kapanen and you would dump the $4.5 million of Zaitsev's contract. But Hamilton's making over $5 million, so really money-wise, that's not a huge help, and roster-wise, I don't think it's a huge help either. But Nazem Kadri, another guy whose name has come up, although, some of these rumors, you really just have to take it for what it's worth, but Kadri's another guy whose name has come up, given the fact that he's been suspended out of the playoffs for the past 2 seasons. He's hurt the team with dumb penalties and getting suspended. At this point, he's really a third-line center, and he's a guy that I think is, when you look at the totem pole of what's important and what isn't, Kadri's kind of, signing Mitch Marner is more important than keeping Nazem Kadri, and probably signing, some of these other players are probably more important than keeping Nazem Kadri. So he's a guy that you look at and you think maybe he gets moved and they would dump his salary and get him out of there. But Toronto really is a mess right now. They're in cap hell. They are in salary cap hell at this point, and we knew this was coming. Once we saw the money that Matthews got, once we saw them sign John Tavares for $11 million per year, and we knew Mitch Marner's contract was coming. Everyone saw this coming. The Maple Leafs saw this coming. They knew this was going to happen, and I'm sure they have a plan because they've seen it. They knew they were going to end up in this situation. They must have a plan. It's just a matter of how well does this plan work out for them. Obviously, moves are going to have to be made, and I would think that the 2 guarantees is that Nikita Zaitsev and Patrick Marleau are gone. They will not be on the team next year. They both will probably be traded away. And Ron Hainsey is 99% sure that Ron Hainsey will not be re-signed. They have said that they'd be willing to bring back Jake Gardner if the money allows it. Again, Jake Gardner, Boston Bruins MVP 2 years in a row in the playoffs. Not sure why exactly they want to bring him back so badly, but his name has been brought up as a guy that if the money is there, they will bring back. So that's it for that's just the Maple Leafs. There is so much going on with this Toronto team right now. It's insane, and we don't know what exactly is going to happen. But what we do know is that something is going to happen because this team has to dump salary. They don't have a choice. They have to dump salary. As far as other teams and other things that have come up, Jason Zucker's name has been thrown around a lot. He's a guy that Minnesota, I think, is actively shopping and trying to get rid of. Vancouver is a team that's been linked to him. I'm sure there are some other teams out there that would be very interested in adding Jason Zucker as a second-line winger and what he brings, his speed and his offensive ability. Let's see what else here as I'm scrolling through, looking at, there's so much Maple Leaf stuff, but I'm trying to get some of the other rumors out there as well. Pavel Datsyuk, a lot of people have been wondering if Pavel Datsyuk would be returning to the NHL. Absolutely not going to happen. He's signed a one-year deal with a KHL team whose name I am not even going to attempt to pronounce, but he's staying in the KHL. So Datsyuk is not coming back to the NHL. Jason Spezza's name has been linked to him going back to Ottawa, as has Erik Karlsson's, and that was an interesting one that I've thought. There was a report out there that Erik Karlsson hopes that either Montreal or Ottawa will make a competitive offer for him in free agency. And that's interesting because, Ottawa really stinks. They're one of the worst teams in the league. And Montreal didn't make the playoffs last year, but Erik Karlsson seems to want to go back to Canada, and obviously he's not going to be re-signing with the San Jose Sharks. So he hits the UFA market on July 1st, and there's going to be a massive interest in him, obviously, given the fact that it's Erik freaking Karlsson. But he I think wants, the potential is there for him to go back to Ottawa. And the potential is there for Jason Spezza at this point. Probably should just retire right now, but maybe has 1 year left. And maybe he'll spend that in Ottawa, where he spent, the best years of his career, years ago. And then he'll just finish up there in Ottawa. But there's a lot of talk swirling around the NHL right now. Obviously, Boston and St. Louis are the only teams still playing. So we still, all these other teams are working the phones, trying to make trades, trying to figure out their free agency plans, who they're going to re-sign, who they're not. And it's a very busy time of year for the general managers, and there is a lot going on. One last thing that continues to pop up over and over are these Evgeny Malkin to the Florida Panthers rumors, and I really don't understand those at all. It's not going to happen. Evgeny Malkin wants to stay in Pittsburgh, and he's staying in Pittsburgh. There is a 99.9% chance that Evgeny Malkin stays with the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm trying to look up right now some of these rumors and just his he has a full no movement clause. He is signed through 2022. He's making $9.5 million per year. He has a full no movement clause. He has to okay anything that Pittsburgh tries to do with him, and he has openly said that he does not want to leave Pittsburgh. Evgeny Malkin will be a Pittsburgh Penguin next year. Evgeny Malkin is probably going to be a Pittsburgh Penguin for his entire career. And if he does leave Pittsburgh, he's probably going back to Russia. That's just the facts. When he leaves Pittsburgh, he will probably be going back to Russia. I don't think he wants to play for any other NHL team. He has won 3 Stanley Cups. He's played his entire career with the Pittsburgh Penguins, the team that drafted him. He is signed for the next 3 seasons still, which he'll probably play out in Pittsburgh. And then at that point, he'll be in his mid-30s, and he'll probably go back to Russia. Or he'll stay in Pittsburgh if he wants to, but he has made it very clear that he does not want to. He's not going to okay a trade to the Florida Panthers. It's just not going to happen. So anytime you hear these Evgeny Malkin to the Panthers rumors, it's not going to happen. They're just rumors, and they're rumors made up by people who really don't understand what they're talking about, because that no movement clause is key. Pittsburgh cannot just send him to Florida. He has to okay anything that Pittsburgh tries to do with him. So Toronto is obviously leading the way as far as trade rumors. They are in cap hell right now. They've got so many big name players to re-sign, Mitch Marner being the biggest. They have such little cap space. Marlowe and Zaitsev are the two big names likely to be on the move. And we'll see what other moves that they make. Jason Zucker in Minnesota, he's been talked about a lot. And then obviously we have free agency coming up. There's plenty of rumors about free agency going around. This is a very busy time for the general managers. So this video's already gotten really long, but I just want to talk about some of the different rumors going around the NHL and what we could see happen over the next couple of weeks before we get to the NHL draft. And with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. We're on the road to 1,000 subs. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hope you enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you guys soon.